Today I'm going through 5 knives I used to love, and after having them for years, what do I think about them now, today? Starting it off, we have the Zero Tolerance 0450. I used to love and adore this knife. This is one of the first premium knives me and Kara ever got. She actually picked it up and she knew I was absolutely just in love with the way it looked. And after getting it, we thought like this was like the pinnacle. Like this was like, the best you could get pretty much as far as premium knives go. But boy, does your perspective change over time. So first off, spoiler alert, I would never recommend anybody to buy this knife. And there's a bunch of reasons why. Now mine, and this isn't the reasons why, but one thing, mine came with the worst heat treated S35 VN I've ever experienced. Now mine was an early model probably, so I heard that they were having issues with the softer heat treatments, early on, but they had fixed that. So I'm not considering that part of my argument, but because of that, it meant I sharpened the death out of it. Like I sharpened it to death because the steel was so horrible. It just would not take an edge. And I was really good at sharpening at the time, so it wasn't like I was, a poor sharpener. But anyways, regardless of that, I've modified this. I've done a lot of things to this thing. And to be honest, it is still solid. The action is still really good. There's no play any direction. It's actually really, really good still as far as build quality. However, here's my issues. It just doesn't make sense. The knife does not make sense. And what I mean by that is the blade geometry and handle do not complement each other at all. And Kara guessed that. So the handle is you can't fit 4 fingers in between here. You can only fit 3. So this little peak winds up getting in your way, or you got to like struggle to hang on to the ass end of it. Now, a lot of people say, well, yeah, that's just a small knife or a compact knife. And I would agree. But the problem with that is that the geometry is so thick. Why? It's a narrow blade. This is not like it's a big broad blade when it started out. It's a very narrow blade with a flat grind, not a hollow. So like right now, mine, after being sharpened to death, oh man, and I do have a low angle, 47 thousandths behind the edge after laying it back, obviously, and after a lot of sharpening. So it didn't start out that way. And it's only got technically 120 thousandths blade stock thickness, but it's just so narrow. So when trying to use this thing, even when I did have a good edge on it, it was a nightmare to push through materials. It just did not cut well. Utility cuts, yeah, if you're just getting it to open up packages, yeah, it's fine, but it's not something you're ever gonna wanna really use in a serious way. Now, another thing is obviously the sharp control and plunge grind sucked on it. The access to the lock bar was not the best. The clip, my clip now is like very shifty. But regardless of any of that, it was solid at one time. But it's just, it's not a good knife in my opinion. It's overpriced for what you're getting and it just doesn't make sense. It should have been a hollow grind, thinner blade, thinner geometry, much thinner behind the edge if for this size of a knife, or make the handle a little bit bigger. If you're gonna have geometry like this, make it more comfortable. Because when you have thick geometry like this, there's the only purpose is for toughness, right? Does this look like a tough knife to you? It's not a tough knife. This isn't, so all it's gonna do is hinder you from cutting, which doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, with my heat treat problems on it, drove me nuts. Next is the Tucson TS223. Now, this was one I called my favorite Tucson for a long time. Is it still? Well, it's probably not my favorite of all, but I do really, really like it still. This is a highly recommended knife in my opinion. I think this is awesome. I have 2 of them. Both of them are still just as solid as when I first got them. Very, very ergonomic. This is good ergonomics. This is good geometry. It has a thicker blade stock, but a nice broad blade that gets down nice and thin behind the edge. I think it starts out at like 13 thousandths, 15 thousandths. And I've sharpened mine a lot. And like I said, I have 2 of them. So I've carried this thing a lot. This is the M390 one. The 14C28N one is probably my favorite. I think the carbon fiber is a very nice cut of carbon fiber. They have beautiful micro milling on the titanium. Nice bolster lock. The clip, Very good clip, great clip. Just all in all, it is a super solid knife with a great detent, great sharp and show and plunge grind. This is how you do it. See that? Look at all that life I have to sharpen off until I hit the plunge grind. And because of the ergonomics that match the blade, the one thing is I do wish it had a hole deployment. That would be so awesome. Or just some sort of secondary deployment. But the flipper tab works great. Like I said, very comfortable, very great to use. It's a great user. This is a highly recommended knife from Tucson. Now, I do have another Tucson we're going to talk about. The 301. This was another one that I absolutely adored. And I got to say, I still think this thing is awesome. I don't carry it anymore. I haven't carried it in a long time. And it's mostly due to this blade shape because this really isn't my style of a blade shape. And I even said that, you know, back in the day when I was, you know, doing reviews on it and stuff. But because of how good it was, it made me fall in love with it. Granted, I can still use the tip. The belly, you know, you can obviously use. Nice sharp and tone plunge grind, very thin geometry with a thick blade stock, so it passes through materials really well. Very neutral handles, so you can turn around, cut straps, you can cut forward, gas station knife fighting grip. They're all gold. They're all good. The access to the lock bar, it's a little pokey right there, but it doesn't bother you. And look at how smooth this thing is. I mean, it is just buttery smooth. And this has some of my favorite thumb studs of all time on it. Like, these are thumb studs that I prefer on most knives. Like, even my Chris Reeves, if you look, I replaced my thumb stud with a thumb stud that's kind of similar to this one, which makes it to where you have a nice platform to press, to put leverage on so you can launch it out. And boy, does this thing just, it launches. Yeah, it's great. Reverse flick is great. The micarta is really good quality. Carbon fiber is good quality. Titanium liners, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, because it's basically a frame lock. The clip is my biggest issue. I'm not a fan of titanium ball clips. However, this one wasn't bad because you can see they didn't put a lot of tension on it. So the blade steel on this one's 14C28N. I think it does come in other blade steels like D2 and stuff like that. But you can get these for like $100 or less, which, for what you're getting for the build quality, the materials, and so on, it's a really good price. This is definitely one I still do like. I still do think they did a good job on it. And, you know, I don't carry it anymore, so it's not something I'm throwing in the pocket off. Man, mine is still rock solid. That's crazy, man, because of how much use I've put this one through, how many edges it's had. Next, Benchmade Bugout, the Benchmade Bugout. So I used to love, well, actually I first started off with a love-hate relationship with this because when I first got this, it got gritty as all hell, and everybody was experiencing the same thing where their knives were just like I'm talking about like gritty beyond gritty, like obnoxiously gritty, like where it'd make you angry. But everybody knew, because, you know, other people talk about it, you just got to keep flicking it for about 3 or 4 days. After about 3 or 4 days of flicking, it will go away. And it did. And it did wind up getting very smooth. And I did like it a lot. I think this is a very good looking, attractive knife. It has many options, many different flavors. I love this blade shape. One of my favorite blade shapes. Very thin geometry. I love how good it slices. Now, I was not a fan of the FRN scales because of how flimsy they were. But you can always get aftermarket, and now they have so many different flavors. Like I said, the G10, they got aluminum, they got everything, titanium. You can get just about anything with these. There's so many different flavors. So I do still like the knife a lot. However, I don't like to recommend it anymore. And the reason why, now, if this is just like, this is the knife for you, this is what you want, then yes, go for it. You know, it is a solid knife. They have a great warranty. I'm not a big fan of the thumb studs. They are a little bit tight to the scales, so I slip off of them quite a bit. But my issue with it is just the price. For what you're getting, the price just does not make sense to me. If I was you and I was going to want to get a knife similar to this and you want to get USA made, I would recommend the Benchmade Griptilian with the sheep's foot blade in the hole. This has such better access to the hole deployment. Granted, it's not as slicey as this one, and this one technically is not as big. Or you can get the full-size Griptilian like this. They're on sale right now. I think you can get the mini one like this for like $109 right now. Yeah, S30V too, S30V, FRN. Or you can just get the full size one for a little bit more. I forget how much those are going for, but I'll link them down in the description. I would just go with that. I would go with the Griptilian if you're wanting a Benchmade. This is, I think, the most affordable Benchmade, but in my opinion, one of the best Benchmades ever to exist. Granted, it is not the sliciest, but you have the ability to lower back your edge angle because they do give you a good sharpening choil, and it does slice still really good. The ergonomics definitely help it. Like I was saying earlier with the 0450, the ergonomics just don't match the geometry. Well, with the Griptilian, it actually does. You can get a good grip on it. It has a nice, thick, durable blade, so you're going to be able to be tough on it. Both of mine are still rock solid, and I've had these way longer than this one, and this thing has all kinds of play, up and down, side to side, just play. And I've broken multiple Omega springs on this, never ever broken an Omega spring on my Griptilians. So, you know, it could be just mine, but otherwise, the other one I would recommend is just get the, where's it at? Either the Bel Air from Kershaw. This will give you the same geometry, better steel, better price, better materials, better everything. Better everything. Or the Hogue Deca. Now the Hogue Deca you can get in the Magna Cut steel, similar to the Kershaw. Their heat treat is 63-64. These guys are 62-64. I did see some other things saying like 61-62, but I'm pretty sure it's 62-64. And I've seen some HRC tested and it did pretty good. And I did an edge retention test on this if you want to go watch it so you can see how much this thing will cut. And, you know, spoiler alert, it did well. But the handle, the geometry, are very similar between the three. This is a great model. The one thing I don't like about this is the FRN scales that it comes with on the Magna Cut version. You can get the 20 CV with the G10, but you could just always upgrade and get some original goat scales. 15% discount code, link down in the description. These are the best USA made, best scales, period. Best scales, period. But they are also USA made, and they have a bunch of different materials. But that will absolutely upgrade your Deca to a premium knife for sure. But anyways, I would just definitely recommend any one of these over the Bugout. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people love the Bugout, but it's just, man, the price just keeps going up, and for the materials, it just doesn't make sense. It almost feels like a toy. I know it's tough. I know it's a tough knife, but there's plenty of other lightweight options out there that are just as tough, and, you know, and you're getting better materials, better everything, so. And then last, the Kershaw Leek. This knife I had before I ever started the channel. I was actually doing construction still when I first got this. I remember spending a whole day cutting drywall with this thing, with this exact knife, with my brother-in-law. But anyways, it is, in my opinion, one of the most gateway knives that you can buy. If you want to get somebody a knife that's just like a gateway knife that'll get them to better knives, this is a good one to do because it kind of, it's affordable, so it's very affordable. It is a USA made knife. It is assisted. Mine does not have the assist anymore, as you can see. No big deal. But it has a hollow ground Wharncliffe blade in 14C28, and there is other versions though. There's so many flavors with there's a reason why the Leek was so popular and why they have so many different options, because it is a really good knife. Very slim, very compact. No, it's not a hard use knife, but it is a hard use utility cutter. And that's what I was using it for with drywall. But because it's so thin and slicey, you know, it's got a thin blade stock. Not like it's super thin behind the edge, but it is very slicey and it cuts really well. Very slim handle. You don't even know you have a knife in your pocket when you're carrying this. And I left mine with the regular configuration with the clip. I could flip it around this way, but then you have so much hanging out of the pocket. So I was like, screw it. You know, I'll just leave it. But as far as the Kershaw Leek goes and how much I like it still today, I don't carry it, and I probably wouldn't carry it anymore, even though I do love it. And I think that this is a great knife to recommend to people. I just don't like assisted knives. I don't carry assisted knives, and because I don't have an assist on mine anymore, it makes it even less like, well, technically, I'd rather have it non-assisted, but it doesn't have a detent. I should have said that. When you don't have an assist on your Leek, it doesn't have a detent. So there's literally no detent. So Even if it did have the assist though, I wouldn't carry it. I just, you know, it's, granted, it's a great knife. I love it. I think a lot of people will love and cherish it. I think a lot of people, I think this, like I said, this is the best gift knife, in my opinion. The best gift knife and the best knife to get people into knives, because it is such a good knife. It has a quality steel, the 14C28N, great geometry. So you have a knife that's going to cut really well, very lightweight, very easy to carry, and anybody can carry it. But it kind of gets you a taste of quality that makes you want, it makes you crave more. It makes you wonder, well, man, if a $50 knife, $40 to $60 knife is this good, what would like a $120 knife be like? You know, it kind of gets you into that mindset. So anyways, I'm thinking about doing a video on gateway knives. Maybe we'll do that. Anyways, there you guys go. Those are my feelings on the knives after all these years. If you guys like this type of content, I will put some other videos on the screen for you to click on. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.